Dear audience, I offer respectfully my greetings to you. It would be my pleasure and honor to meet you, though it's a virtual conference. I'm so much grateful to you since you would pay attention to this presentation. A theoretical model of hope for teaching English as a foreign language is the title of this presentation. Iranian society has welcomed learning languages, particularly EFL learning, and Iranian EFL teachers have engaged in teaching English to facilitate EFL learning and help EFL learners to achieve their goals. Moreover, sociopolitical milieux of all countries in the world may specifically tend to compromise people's perceptions of relative hope for their activities and professions or vice versa. In this way, there were the periods when a substantial number of EFL teachers within the Iranian context requiredly moaned that they had no high hope for teaching English most of the time. The issue gradually became a matter of great concern. Therefore, the problem was if the low hope of EFL learners for teaching English as a foreign language could be improved, and how it might be possible. The meaning of hope might be obvious to most people. However, according to domain-specific theory of hope, it acts specifically. In other words, hope can be scientifically conceptualized in terms of its immediate context. Hope has been acknowledged as a significant psychological resource for job performance. Accordingly, this recognition logically implies that hope is very likely an influential factor within the field of second language teaching too. Nevertheless, there is a dearth of research on this topic. Further, most importantly, no theoretical conceptualization of hope has been institutionalized in the field of SLT. Therefore, the EFL or SLA field is no exception, and it calls for a definition of hope and the development of a theory of hope that is contextually specific to the field. Scientifically, the scientific conceptualization of hope actually begins with the theories of hope in the contemporary era. Research on hope to date has tended to focus on exploring it from different perspectives. Therefore, there is no consensual theory of hope. Studies of hope for academic and workplace environments have recently received more attention. Moreover, consequently, hope may also logically have a serious influence on the effectiveness of teaching English as a foreign or second language within its respective educational EFL or ESL context. However, reviewing the literature on hope indicates that there is a dearth of research into the conceptualization of hope on the interface in studies of second language teaching. The present study was aimed at depicting the process by which hope for teaching English as a foreign language is developed. Therefore, the following questions were addressed in this study. First, what are the components of hope for teaching EFL within the Iranian EFL context? Second, how are the identified components of hope for teaching EFL interconnected to each other within the Iranian EFL context? The present research adopted an exploratory mixed methods research design. Grounded theory method for qualitative phase and survey for quantitative phase of this study were used. In-depth interviews with the research participants generated the source of primary data. Reviewing the relevant literature on the research topic provided the secondary data source. To jointly collect and analyze the data qualitatively, theoretical sampling was used to provide the pervasive sample of participants, and constant data comparison technique revealed the theoretical saturation of data. Based on the results obtained from the qualitative phase of the study, a Likert-type questionnaire of hope for teaching EFL was designed, piloted, and tested in the quantitative phase of the study. 5 experienced teachers Teachers of EFL made up the experienced interviewees of this grounded-based study. A sample of 30 EFL teachers participated in the piloting phase. A convenient sample of 228 EFL teachers participated in the testing phase. Interview sessions were transcribed verbatim and saved as a Word file document to analyze the participants' perspectives more closely. Afterward, open coding, axial coding, and selective coding were done to analyze them. The validation of the coding data was judged, and a two-step approach including piloting and testing was adopted in the quantitative phase. The measurement models and the structural equations models of this research were analyzed statistically. 7 main components, including interpersonal relationship, goal setting, source, social purpose, emotion, certainty, and anticipated effort, emerged as the underlying components of hope for teaching English as a foreign language. 38 concept indicators of hope for teaching English as a foreign language emerged during the coding process. Intra-coder and intercoder reliability tests confirmed the reliability of the coding data. The relationships between the identified factors underlying hope for teaching English as a foreign language were developed. Finally, the qualitative theoretical model of hope for teaching EFL emerged. The qualitative theoretical model of hope for teaching English as a foreign language demonstrates that there are different paths to the development of the hope. Also, the development of hope for teaching EFL starts from the factor interpersonal relationship and ends with the anticipated effort component. Further, this process indicates that the emotion factor mediates just the path which starts from the goal-setting factor or the social purpose and leads to the certainty factor. Moreover, as you can see in this figure, source as a core factor has discovered and the relationships between the components were explored qualitatively. Reliability of the 35 items of hope for teaching EFL scale was confirmed in the pilot phase. Reliability of the data gathered from the 203 completed questionnaires of hope for teaching EFL during the testing phase was confirmed. The statistical analysis results confirmed validity of the scale. The results of the KMO revealed the sampling adequacy. The measurement models of hope for teaching EFL were estimated and tested. The final conceptual framework of hope for teaching EFL was confirmed. The structural relationships and confirmatory factor models of hope for teaching EFL were estimated and tested. Finally, the final theoretical model of hope for teaching EFL was developed. The 35 challenges in 7 categories reveal a comprehensive picture of the factors that influence hope for teaching EFL. The 7 categories include goal setting, emotion, certainty, anticipated effort, interpersonal relationships, source, and social purpose. The most influential factor in the creation of hope for EFL teachers in a general perspective is the expand effort variable linked to the anticipated effort category that highlights the role of the teacher's effort at teaching English to develop the hope for successful English teaching. It is followed by the internal motivation tied to the category of source, which highlights the role of internal attitudes and interests in teaching English. On the other hand, foreign themes as the least influential variable linked to the category of source supports the importance of EFL teachers' knowledge about themes of hope in foreign literature and poetry so as to develop their hope for EFL teaching. Moreover, the variable friend's role tied to the interpersonal relationship category is the second least effective factor involving hope for EFL teaching. This outcome highlights the little importance of the variable friend's role in building hope for EFL teaching. The final structural equation model of hope for teaching EFL confirms the qualitative findings. It confirms the 7 identified factors. It also verifies that the process starts from the interpersonal relationship and ends with the anticipated effort. This figure illustrates the paths representing 10 hypothesized relationships. 2 of the 10 relationships are between each of the latent variables of source and social purpose, as well as the latent construct of anticipated effort. 2 of the total relationships are between each of the latent variables of interpersonal relationship and emotion, as well as the certainty construct. The 2 hypothesized relationships are between each of the latent variables of goal setting and social purpose, as well as the latent construct of emotion. The other 2 hypothesized relationships are between each of the latent variables of interpersonal relationship and the social purpose, as well as the goal setting construct. The relationship between the latent variable of interpersonal relationship and the social purpose construct, in addition to the relationship between the certainty construct and the latent variable of source, were also hypothesized within the model. As shown in the figure above, the observed variables of source and social purpose constructs have meaningful effects on the anticipated effort construct. In the same way, the observed variables of interpersonal relationship and emotion have meaningful effects on the certainty construct. Additionally, the observed variables of goal setting and social purpose have meaningful effects on the emotion construct. The observed variables of interpersonal relationship and social purpose have meaningful effects on the goal setting construct. Likewise, the observed variables of interpersonal relationship have meaningful effect on the social purpose construct. Finally, the observed variables of certainty have meaningful effects on the source construct. As a developed final theoretical model of hope for teaching English as a foreign language indicates, the process is initiated by the interpersonal relationship as a contributing dominant factor. This main factor includes the learner's role, colleague's role, friend's role, and family's role variables. In this process, the 5 factors, namely goal setting, social purpose, emotion, certainty, and source, act as mediators to result in anticipated effort. The anticipated effort is the final factor in this model. This factor contains elements of expend effort and exert yourself. The factor source was discovered as the core factor of the process, with the elements including religious beliefs or spirituality, Persian themes, Persian knowledge, foreign themes, you yourself, motivation for gaining professional identity, motivation for earning money, and internal motivations. The final figure depicts that most of the influential factors in the whole process are closely related to the core factor. The goal-setting factor can help map the process of hope for EFL teaching when it is needed. At the same time, parallel to the goal setting, the social purpose has a significant influence on the process. Finally, the emotion factor plays an effective role in the goal setting path to the certainty and also in the social purpose path to the certainty. 7 main categories, including interpersonal relationship, social purpose, goal setting, emotion, certainty, source, and anticipated effort, make up the underlying structures of the whole in the theoretical model. Recognizing the interrelationships among the identified factors led to the construction of the theoretical model of hope for teaching English as a foreign language. The influence of these factors on each other, drawn as the 5 paths, depicts the development of hope for teaching EFL. The process of hope for teaching EFL begins with the interpersonal relationship and ends with the anticipated effort. The factor source was discovered as the core factor, with the elements including religious beliefs or spirituality, Persian themes, Persian knowledge, foreign things, you yourself, motivation for gaining professional identity, motivation for earning money, and internal motivations. The final figure depicts that most of the influential factors in the hope process are closely related to the core factor. The present study offers a multifaceted theoretical model of hope for teaching English as a foreign language. It can be developed via multiple paths, while the goal-setting component is not necessarily involved in this process. The interpersonal relationship factor emphasizes the influential role of learner, teacher, friend, and family in the process of developing hope. The anticipated effort factor is emphasized in two ways, namely spending a lot of energy, expend effort, and working very hard or exert yourself to teach English as a foreign language. It's worth mentioning that the internal motivation item is intensely highlighted due to the highest rate of explanatory power that it indicates. It was found that expend effort and internal motivation are the most influential items influencing the development of Iranian EFL teachers' hope, while the least include the foreign themes and the friends' role items. The results can raise awareness of educational managers and instructors of EFL or ESL about the importance of the topic. It can be followed by designing EFL or ESL teacher education materials to cover the topic. Further, designing intervention programs of hope for teaching English as a foreign language can improve the EFL teachers' levels of hope. The results can be utilized by curriculum evaluators and program developers desiring to evaluate the effectiveness of foreign or second language education programs. Finally, the findings of this study lay the foundation on which further research into the subject may be conducted in the future. Contrary to what may seem at first glance, the weak explanatory power of the religious beliefs item in developing hope for teaching EFL can be the subject of further research. Doing research on this topic in the second or foreign language contexts of other countries and comparing the results can provide researchers with a more complete knowledge about the subject. Applying the measurement scale of hope for teaching EFL, if necessary, can lead to its further refinement. Thank you very much.